What's up, YouTube? Jeremy Weber here, founding member at Brand Builders Group, coming at you again today to talk about what are the top 3 mistakes that early stage or new personal brands make that cause them to fail. So bottom line, if you're new to the game of trying to build kind of your personal brand, try to get it off the ground, use it as a mechanism to drive growth of your business, then this video is a must watch to make sure that you actually succeed and get to that next level that you're trying to get to. So before we dive in, I got to just say, the standards, right? Like, subscribe, share, all the things that help us kind of play the game with the algorithm and reach more people. Now, obviously, don't do that if you're not enjoying the content. But if you're enjoying the content, we would really appreciate us doing a solid for us to help us reach more people with this video. So let's get into it. So we deal with a ton, hundreds, thousands of clients here at Brand Builders Group. And so the reality is that most of them are early stage brands or businesses, right? They are trying to build something, right? Whatever it is, different types of businesses. But the reality is most of them are early stage or kind of newer brands, newer businesses. So we have a ton of experience, a ton of exposure to what are the challenges for early stage businesses and brands that keep them from really being able to keep the lights on, keep them from getting to the next level. And what's so unfortunate about this is that when you think about it, you do that for a reason, right? You have a passion around something. You're trying to have bigger impact, serve more people, whatever it is. And so the why behind what you're doing is real, right? It's authentic. And when you don't get these 3 things right, you kind of like cut your legs out from underneath you, and it keeps you from driving the revenue you need to drive to keep the lights on, keep this business venture going, and living into this passion that you have. So again, if you're in the earlier stages of your business and your brand, this is a must watch as we dive into the top 3 mistakes that most early stage personal brands make that keep them from doing what they love doing and ultimately failing. So key number 1, and we're going to bring up the handy dandy whiteboard again, because I love that. So key number 1, or let's just say mistake number 1, that most personal brands make that keep them from keeping the lights on and succeeding is ultimately that they are selling the wrong thing. Okay, so let's kind of break this down. So what's important to understand, right, is I'm gonna PAIDs, right? If you're new to how we do what we do at Brand Builders Group, there's this acronym. It's a framework inside our curriculum called PAIDs, PAIDS. These are all the different ways to monetize a personal brand, and we name it this way because we want you to get paid. All right. So the key thing here, I'm going to use this to kind of set this up because a lot of early stage brands, they're focused on trying to monetize the wrong way. And that keeps them from being able to, drive revenue, the revenue they need to sustain the business and ultimately keep everything rolling. So I'm going to take you through these and talk about which ones are wrong and then ultimately which one is the right one. So P, what is P? That's for products, right? Product opportunities, right? So think books, journals, swag, etc. It's great, right? There's a place for it. It helps you serve more people at scale at lower price points. It's awesome. But when you're in the early days of building your brand and your business, it is not the time to be spending time, money, effort trying to write a book, trying to get a bunch of swag branded, right? Trying to build journals and products, right? You don't have the upfront capital likely to invest in a lot of that stuff. And you also don't have the platform of people to sell it to. So it doesn't make sense. So if you're doing that, don't do it. All right. Don't worry about that right now. A, what is A? Ads and affiliates. Great way to make money, especially getting other people paying to get access to your audience, right? You've accumulated all these eyeballs. It's awesome. They're running ads to your audience, killing it. It's great. Or maybe you're driving traffic from all of your viewers, listeners, right? Subscribers, whatever, driving traffic back to these great affiliate products where you get kickbacks if anybody buys. super exciting opportunities to drive kind of passive income, very scalable. But again, it is not applicable almost at all if you're in the earlier stage, because you don't have the platform, you don't have the eyeballs, you don't have that leverage and that trust, that asset to bring to the table to then run ads or drive traffic back. So again, don't really worry about that right now. It's not applicable. So what is I? Oh man, this is a killer one, right? Information products. This is where it's at, right? I'm creating this business because I want to create a course. It's going to be killer. I'm going to sell it while I sleep. Life is going to be good. I'm going to be sitting at the beach, don't have to do anything. This course, I'm going to go viral. I'm going to create one course. I'm going to create a killer funnel. Life is going to be good. Okay. Again, not a good idea. Most people are like, I immediately want to scale. I immediately want to do this digital thing that's super automated and evergreen and scalable and all these great things. And again, great opportunity to monetize in those ways at some point, but unless you've got an established audience to sell to, and two, you have a solidified methodology or curriculum or process or something you can package in a course that you're confident will deliver results when somebody goes through it, and then they're going to love it and rave about it and make sure other people buy it or buy your next thing, right? It's too early. The third reason you don't want to do this right now, as appealing as it may be, right, is because it costs a lot of money, right? It costs a lot of money to build out these courses, these membership programs, all this stuff, right? So again, as appealing as it might be to do the information products, don't do it, right? Not on the early stage, right, of building out your brand and your business, okay? The fourth way, D, is deals. Think book deals, brand deals, TV deals. Also super exciting. Also not applicable if you're in the early stages of building out your personal brand, okay? Again, you don't have the authority, you don't have the influence, you don't have the leverage to go bring that to these different entities to try to broker deals. So what are we left with? S, which stands for services, right? Services. Think time for money. People pay me for my time to deliver results for them, right? This is what we like to call the fastest path to cash, right? You don't need anything. I don't need a book. I don't need a learning management system. I don't need anything. I need to be able to take your money and then us hang out together and me deliver some killer results for you. So it's the fastest path to cash. It's also the fastest way for you to kind of bring your methodology, your process that you use to deliver great results for people to market, test it, iterate on it, refine it, make it better, so that at some point you can package it in an information product of some sort to scale it, or package it in a book at some point to scale delivering of it to a mass market. But again, we're not worried about that in the beginning. In the beginning, we're trying to get product market fit. The fastest way to do that is time for money, also known as services. So mistake number one is they're focused on the wrong thing. So if you're doing any of the PAIDs, don't do them anymore. Focus on the S to get traction, drive revenue, and kind of give yourself the funding to then eventually reinvest in some of these other things to reach more people at scale. Okay, so number two, moving forward, what is number two? I'm gonna put it over here. We'll see how this diagram goes. Number two is they aren't clear on who the buyer is. Now, naturally, if you're not selling the right thing, odds are you may be selling to the wrong buyer, okay? So that's an issue in itself, but let's say you correct and I'm really clear on I'm selling my coaching program or my consulting program or whatever, right? So services, time for money, right? The next thing you want to do is who's my buyer, right? And so I'm not talking about, like, hey, like, I think it's so-and-so. I'm talking about doing a deep dive analysis on what are the demographic and psychographic characteristics of what we feel is your ideal client. Okay. So demographic is things like, gender, race, income, geographic, where do they live, right, etc. What, some of that stuff. Now, psychographics are, what are they thinking? What's in their head? What are their limiting beliefs? What do they want? Where do they hang out? That type of stuff. All right. So you want to do a deep dive analysis on both of those sets of information around your ideal client. That lets us really get to know them, and most importantly, get a sense for where they hang out, where they congregate, which is going to be a key next step or set of information to use to find them, get in front of them, and ultimately try to deliver value and hopefully get them to want to do business with you at some point. So we'll call it your core target audience, not call to action. It's a different CTA. All right, so core target audience is the second thing. They don't know who their core target audience is. And the last tip I'll give you in this second section is actually pretty fundamental, and it's something that you want to do before you actually do the deep dive on the demographics and psychographics, is get a sense for your these three tiers, right? We would call this primary, sorry, instead of 1, 2, 3, primary, secondary, and tertiary. So there's an ideal client, the perfect person that needs your help to buy this, whatever you help them with. All right. Then what is another secondary kind of like buyer that is not your ideal client, but they're like, yeah, I could definitely help them. And they might buy something, right? So I want to be aware of them, but they're a little bit different. They're not my ideal, right? So they would be here. And then what are these other people that are tertiary? That could even, the tertiary audiences, and think of these as segments of the market. You have the segment of the market that's your ideal buyer and you're trying to get in front of them. Then there's another segment of the market that's like a secondary buyer, pretty good fit, but not perfectly made for what I'm doing. And then this tertiary could be another buyer, or tertiary could be other entities or organizations or people that actually have already aggregated a bunch of your ideal client, this primary. And so you want to know about them so we can use them to get in front of our ideal client, which again is this person right here, our core target audience. So segment the market, which is this over here, then do a deep dive on this person, which is, this primary, and do it based on them buying this. Okay. So that was mistake number 2, is they're not super clear on who the ideal buyer is for their primary business model, the main thing they're trying to sell. All right. The third thing, and just before we go into 3 here, this is critical. While we're also down here, I want you to know that don't try to sell a bunch of stuff. We're not selling a bunch of stuff. Pick the thing that makes sense, which we've established at services, and then focus all of your effort on selling that thing. That's the other big thing, is they're selling the wrong thing, and they're also trying to sell too many things. All right, so just want to make sure that's clear. So mistake number 3 on why most early stage personal brands fail, right, is that they are not willing to do the work to do outbound sales, period. Okay. And so when we think about building a brand, right, building a personal brand, again, you've heard this over and over from me. What we're talking about is building a business. We're just building businesses. This is a new mechanism to drive awareness, market, sale, right? All the things, right? So it's not a different type of business. It's just we're building businesses still. And so when we think about that, it's naturally fundamental that, hey, I need money to sustain the business. And how do you drive sales? Well, you do sales, all right? But I think most people, right, they think marketing, right? Marketing is great. Social media is awesome. My website looks killer. I'm posting all this awesome stuff. Like, why is nobody buying from me? And the reality is that marketing is the long-term game. Marketing is how you serve more people and reach more people, right? But it's a longer term nurture, right? It's a longer sales cycle. You reach them, you warm them up through micro content, right? Get in a funnel, nurture them some more, then eventually they buy, right? So it's great. You want to do marketing, nothing against it. But if you're in the early stages of your brand and your business, sales comes first, right? So knowing how to do the outbound sales, who is your network? How do you leverage your network? What do you say when you ask for referrals or get a chance to get in front of that ideal client? What's your pitch look like when you get a chance to talk to them? All these things, right? So sales is where you need to focus initially. Those are asterisks with circles because that's important, right? And then once you kind of are firing just through the outbound sales, like fundamental sales best practices to kind of drive some quick revenue of your time for money, then naturally you're going to shift a little bit of allocation of focus and funding over to marketing efforts too, right? Like you need to work these things in parallel naturally. But I think a lot of people place too much emphasis on the marketing in the early days, and it's a slower build. And as a result, you don't see the results, you don't get the sales, you don't have the funding to sustain, and then everything fizzles out. So when you combine all three of these things, it's no bueno. It's no good. And the bottom line is, if you're firing on probably one or maybe two of these, right, then you got a tough road ahead. You have a hard time kind of like getting to that next level with your brand and your business. So course correct where you need to on this, but I hope that's helpful just to kind of like see what are the most common mistakes we're seeing when it comes to early stage personal brands and why they never make it, why they ultimately fail. So again, guys, hope this was helpful. If you found it valuable, please do like, share, subscribe, all the things so we can work the algorithm and reach as many people as possible. Thanks, guys.